Hey guys, I wanted to, since we've had a lot of absences lately with COVID and stuff, including myself, um, I wanted to record the lessons we've had so far and the notes that we've had so far by section. Kind of a crash course. It won't be exactly what we did in class, nor some of the things added to it, but just in case you've missed and you need to get these notes and you need to hear this information, I decided to create a couple videos to kind of keep us caught up to where we're at. These can be used as review as well. So this one is going to be for section one. All right, our first unit here. We've covered sections 1 through 3. We'll cover section 4 here in the next week. But I wanted to create a couple videos here just for your purposes if you need them. Okay, so section 1 is the Rise of Dictators. This covers a period between World War I and World War II and looks at the road to World War II. All right, the most catastrophic world war in human history. So we want to look at how this came about. All right, and specifically how some dictators rose to power in the 1920s and more so in the 1930s. And how those populations allowed that to happen, or they were forced to accept these dictatorships. All right, so we're going to look at a couple here. I want to get us geographically oriented on a map. All right, some areas of the world we're going to be looking at here in this unit. All right, first we're going to look at the Soviet Union. All right, which is going to be the rise of Joseph Stalin, and that's this right here. Okay. Most of what we discuss is going to deal with Europe, all right, especially the early part here in this section 1 and section 2. All right, so right here, Germany, right here in the middle. France, we'll talk about. We'll talk about Great Britain a lot. Italy is going to have a fascist dictator rise to power as well. All right, obviously we're over here. Eventually, we'll get to the Pacific, which makes this a truly world war with Japan over here. All right, there's some of the guys we're going to be talking about: Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. All right, so let's get into this. Okay, how did Joseph Stalin come to power in the Soviet Union? How did he create a totalitarian government? The guy that was in power before him, his name was Vladimir Lenin. All right, and he had tried to institute communism in the Soviet Union, but it hadn't been working, and he began to even allow some private ownership in the Soviet Union, kind of steering the country away from communism. But this dude's going to die in 1924, and Joseph Stalin comes to power. Stalin is going to launch a series of 5-year plans to catch the Soviet Union up with the rest of the world in 2 areas. All right, the first is in agriculture, and the second, which is going to be more successful, is to rapidly industrialize the nation. All right. And one benefit of having these on video too, at any point you can pause me and catch up right down, and then come right back to it. So just FYI. All right, so let's look at his first attempt with modernizing agriculture. He's going to first start by encouraging voluntary collectivization. All right, he's going to encourage small farms to combine their farms into bigger multi-acre farms and allow the state to take over to run them. This is going to be met with resistance. Anytime a country goes from freedom and capitalism to communism, it's always met with resistance because nobody likes to be told that what was mine is no longer mine. It belongs to the government. All right. And that goes for farms, businesses, homes, anything. All right. That's how communism works. Government owns everything and divides it up equally, creating a utopian common society where there is no upper class, but there is no lower class. All right. Farmers who refused were punished by confiscating their food. So any crops that they did have was just going to be taken by the state. All right. And this is going to, as we'll see, the downfall of communism starts to show here as people stopped working. All right. Farmers stopped farming. What's in it for me if I'm not going to profit from my hard work? All right. So this is going to cause massive food shortages throughout the Soviet Union. All right. And 5 million peasants in the Soviet Union are going to be sent to labor camps in Siberia. All right. So farmers who don't go along with this are going to be arrested and sent to labor camps in Siberia, where they'll be working in industries. All right. Forced labor. Okay. When it comes to rapid industrialization, he's going to be a lot more successful. Okay. This is essentially a needed thing in the Soviet Union, and Stalin knows this. The Soviet Union was invaded during World War One, and essentially many times they went to battle with sticks and stones. All right, they did not have the capabilities to match the industrial might of the rest of the world, of Europe, right, of the United States, and so millions of farmers. What happened naturally in the United States just moved to cities and got jobs is going to be forced uh, in the Soviet Union. All the money that the country had went into industries rather than consumer goods, housing, clothing, all right, things that make our lives easy, that people like. And so, because of this, in the Soviet Union during this time, the standard of living fell. All right, people went without basic products. Essentially, life was not good in the Soviet Union. But by 1940, all right, just in a short 15-year period, the Soviet Union had successfully transformed into a modern industrial power. All right, they did have industries now. They could build war machines and keep up with the industrial world. All right. If life sucked in the Soviet Union, then why no rebellion? Why didn't the people fight back? Well, as with all dictatorships, as we'll see, all threats are eliminated. All right, any opposition is eliminated. People who are dissident, who are against the dictator, they disappear. All right, this time period in the Soviet Union is called the Reign of Terror, where over 7 million people were arrested. A million of them were executed, and 6 million were sent to labor camps. All right, not good to be in the Soviet Union during the late 1920s and 1930s. Okay. Now let's turn our focus to Europe. Number two, what is fascism? All right, this philosophy of government is going to rise up between the world wars in the 1920s and 1930s. It emphasizes the importance of the nation, all right, or can be an ethnic group sometimes, and the supreme authority of the leader. All right, this is a word you guys should be familiar with from last year. Nationalism, pride in your country. Fascism is like um, nationalism on steroids. All right. Not only is my country the best, I'm willing to lay down my life for my country. I'm not important. The individual is not important. All right. So, in a fascist state, the needs of the nation are the only thing that is important. Needs of individuals only important if they meet the needs of the state. So, in fascist states, fascist dictatorships, we see lacks of freedoms. All right, no freedoms, no elections. All right, things like that. Fascism is going to take hold in European countries under similar circumstances, and this is how all these dictators rise to power. And we look back historically and say, well, how did people allow this? It's because their lives were not good. All right, their economies were crippled, horrible, and we got this Great Depression thing going on, making it worse. All right, they're still trying to recover from World War One. They have no pride in their nations. And in comes a charismatic, forceful leader that says, I have the answers. I can fix our problems. Just listen to me. Just give me power. And countries do that. Okay. So let's look at another one that comes to power in a fascist nation. His name's Benito Mussolini. All right. And this is going to be in Italy. Benito Mussolini was a honored World War One veteran who believed that Italy was cheated by the Treaty of Versailles. We'll talk about the Treaty of Versailles a lot in this unit. The treaty that ended World War One was good to some and was very bad to others, especially the losers. In Italy's case, they were a winner. They were on the good side, the Allies' side in World War One. But Benito Mussolini felt that they did not get all the spoils of war, the colonies, the reparations that the other Allies got. He was a talented speaker, and he formed the fascist party in Italy. His nickname was El Duce, which just means the leader, and he's going to use gangs to terrorize any opposition, as all these dictators do. Since World War One, things had not been good in Italy. They had horrible economic conditions, only made worse by the Great Depression. There were strikes, there were riots. The country needed to be rebuilt. All right, it was a bad situation in Italy. Immediately when he became dictator, he suspended all elections. He said, we don't have time for voting. That's just a waste of time. I got the answers. I'm in control of everything. I'll fix all our problems. All right. And under Benito Mussolini, believe it or not, and this is a positive of a dictatorship, is that they can get quick change because you don't have the need for compromise and meeting in the middle with different political groups, like we do in America. right now. Under Benito Mussolini, the economy actually improved and life in Italy got better. Ironically, during our own Great Depression, FDR, our president, had sent advisors to Italy to study fascism and see what he was doing that was working, and brought ideas back to the United States. So had he just continued with that, things might have been all right in Italy, but he had bigger goals of expansion and creating a new Roman Empire. All right. He said, we are nothing without conquest. And where is he going to look to conquer? He's going to look to the south, the continent of Africa. All right. And in 1935, he's going to start that conquest by invading Ethiopia, and they would control it by 1936. Okay. All right, let's move a little north from Italy into Central Europe, Germany. All right, and the big dog. All right, everybody's heard of Adolf Hitler, who is going to come to power in Germany during this time. Okay, so let's talk about Adolf Hitler. All right, he was an Austrian World War I veteran, and he too was enraged by the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. You guys learned about this last year in ninth grade. If you remember some of the things it did to Germany, it punished them, it crippled them, right? It made them take full blame, made them pay reparations. All the money they had is going to go out to the Allies. They could not have a navy, much of a navy anyways, or a military. It limited their size. It stripped them of land around Germany. So Germany is now this small country in the middle of Europe rather than this large, proud country. Strip them of their colonies. And so he's going to use this thing repeatedly to fire up the people in Germany as, that this was a travesty and this was something put down on them that they need to fight back against. Okay. In 1919, he joined the Nazi Party. Okay. The National Socialist Workers Party. Essentially, it'd be like being a Republican or a Democrat now. Right? Obviously, nowadays it has a negative connotation because of what the Nazis are going to become known for during World War II. But it was essentially just a workers group, political party. He was a great public speaker and orator, as all of these dictators are. They're very good at firing up a crowd and getting people to follow them. In 1923, he tried to overthrow the Weimar Republic in Germany. He tried to lead a coup to overthrow the government, and he was unsuccessful. He spent 9 months in jail, and when he was in jail, he wrote his book. Many of you have heard of his book before. It's called Mein Kampf. It means in German, my struggle. All right. And in this book, essentially, it's going to be his manifest that is going to be preached over the next decade and a half to all German people and indoctrinated into them. In it, he now outlined the Nazi philosophy and essentially blamed Jews for the defeat in World War I. All right, essentially saying that because we have been poisoning our blood in Germany for centuries by mixing with Jews. And keep in mind, he looks at Jews as a racial, ethnic group, not necessarily a religious group. All right, they can be identified by certain body features, facial features, and things like that. And essentially, it is weakening what he believes is the superior German Aryan race of people in Europe. All right, so he called for strengthening the military, for racial purification, and to reunify all Germans wherever they are. All right, reunifying German-speaking people. Okay, he called for Lebensraum. I like that word. Lebensraum, which means living space for Germany. He said, we got to expand. We don't have enough room in what's left of Germany for all the German people to live in peace. Okay. As within all these countries where dictators rose to power, Germany's economy was crippled after World War I. The Great Depression made it worse. Having to pay reparations made it even worse. We had hyperinflation in Germany. People were looking for someone to solve their problems, to restore the economy, and to restore German pride. In walks Adolf Hitler and the Nazi parties ready to solve all these things. Okay. In 1933, Hitler is going to be named Chancellor, which is the head of the government in Germany. He immediately suspended most freedoms. Okay. We see freedom of the press being eliminated. We see public book burnings, freedom of speech gone, many freedoms eliminated in Germany in order to control the population. Okay, Nazi stormtroopers silenced any opposition to Hitler. to where people put on blinders and just went with the flow. In 1934, the president died and Hitler became both president and chancellor, calling himself Der Führer. Der Führer also just means the leader. All right. As with all these dictators, he periodically purged his own party. Purge means to clean. Essentially, they use high up people in the Nazi party as scapegoats, accused them of disloyalty, had them publicly executed, and this spread fear throughout the population. Okay. All right. Last one we'll do here in this lesson is once Hitler's in control, he has his dictatorship. He's got, Germany. What's some of the things he did, and what did other countries do about it? All right, this is a very important question, the most important we're going to look at here, because historically we can look and say, well, had the world acted differently, maybe things would have panned out differently. All right, so what does Hitler do? Well, first he begins to rearm the military. All right, violation of the Treaty of Versailles. But he starts to build up the military and essentially taunts the world and says, what are you going to do about it? We're going to have a Navy. It's going to be big. We're going to build up a huge military. Do something about it if you don't like it, world. Okay. He reoccupies and fortified the Rhineland, which used to be a part of Germany, was taken from them in the Treaty of Versailles. He says, we're taking that back. All right. Starts to take over territory around Germany. He signed an alliance with Italy, which also was a violation of the Treaty of Versailles. All right, acquired control of Austria, just marched into Austria and said, welcome home. All right, keep in mind, this is all without a shot fired, with all without any aggression. People in Austria, unless you were Jewish, were delighted at this. They had parades for Hitler coming in. All right, and finally stopped paying all reparations. Okay, he said, we're not paying any more reparations. We got to take care of ourselves and challenge the world to do something about it. Okay, here's the big word that we want to take from this lesson here: what the world did about it. All right, Britain, France, and us, pretty much everybody in the world, did nothing. Instead, practiced a policy we call appeasement. Appeasement is when you let a bully get away with something, hoping that they'll be satisfied and hoping they'll stop. Many reasons for this. Obviously, World War I had just ended, so the world wanted to avoid another war. We had the Great Depression going on throughout the world, so countries were concerned with themselves. They were rebuilding from World War I. Many of the territories that Hitler was taking used to be part of Germany anyways, so it was kind of like no harm, no foul. You know, what's the big deal? And so he just continued to go, and the bully gets stronger and stronger. Eventually, Britain and France met with Hitler when he demanded the Sudetenland. They agreed to give it to him if he promised that he would stop and be satisfied. Winston Churchill, one of my heroes, called British leaders out on this and said Britain and France had to choose between war and dishonor. They chose dishonor. They're going to have war. So essentially saying, we could have stood up to this dude. Instead, we dishonored ourselves. We're going to have to stand up to him at some point anyways, and later he's going to be stronger. All right. So historians like to look back and say, could World War II have been prevented or maybe even minimized, maybe not avoided altogether, but minimized if appeasement was not followed? Had we stepped in and done something about the bully sooner? And the answer is maybe. Maybe it could have. Maybe standing up to the bully sooner might have minimized the conflict, because it's going to be gigantic. Okay, so we have our three bullies now. Actually, we've talked about two: Germany and Italy, and later we will get into Japan in section 3, and they would become known as the Axis powers. Okay, all right, we'll pick up with a section 2 in a separate video. Everybody have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions.